Welcome to the State of Our Union, the podcast where real love meets real life. I am your host, Karen Williams, author, speaker, and wife of over 30 years. This is the space for honest conversations around marriage, commitment, conflict, healing, and learning how to choose each other daily. And it's even during the times when life gets heavy. Because love isn't just about the vows we take. It's about the work we're willing to do together. Each week, we'll have conversations that inspire, challenge, and remind you that even through loss, disappointment, and change, your relationship can grow stronger. So, wherever you're listening from, whether you're driving, cooking, working out, or lying in bed wondering if you're alone in this, just know you're not alone. So take a breath, lean in, and let's talk about the real state of our union. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of The State of Our Union and the Fight to Keep It. I am your host, Karen Williams, relationship coach, author, speaker, and all the things. So, guess what? Today, my good friend Jasmine Davis is with me, and I'm so excited because we have not connected in a while. So, we're about to do it.
Goodness.
Right. Jasmine, please tell our audience a little bit about you, who you are, what you do, what part of the country you're in, and then, hey, let's just jump right into our conversation.
Okay, well, my name is Jasmine Davis, two-time author, marriage coach, mama, wife, all the things as well. I live in Maryland on the East Coast. I am going on 21 years of marriage this year. I want to say, oh my gosh, 26 years together.
Mhm.
So it's been a long time with the same man. And I'm telling you, listen, Karen, and there's a lot of things you learn about yourself during that time, and about marriage and all the things. So I'm excited about this. I'm always excited to talk about marriage.
Right.
And not enough people talk about it. Not enough people showcase it. So I think it's important to see healthy marriages, but not only healthy marriages, marriages that have been tested, tried
Yes.
and true, and what happens when that happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
That's the thing too. Like we were discussing earlier, before the cameras come on. One of the things that I know we have to have a conversation around is the fact that there are real people out here with marriages that have gone through the things. We've gone through the seasons. Rob and I have been married, as most of the audience know, we've been married almost 34 years.
Yeah.
And so we are at the point now where, yes, we have gone through a lot of different seasons, but we're really just ebbing and flowing right now. We have, the seasons have gotten us to this
No
point.
say.
Yeah, it's just like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's flowing. We understand each other. We almost at the point where we can, like let's say we finish each other's sentences. But even that, like I always say, that even that can become so complacent, so comfortable, and if we're not careful, we still drown out each other's voices, and we got to keep an eye on that.
Always.
Yeah, yeah.
Always have to continue to date your spouse. You cannot give up on that because once you do, it's so easy to let that go. That was
Mm,
something I was talking to my husband about maybe a few weeks back.
mhm.
Just the hustle and bustle of raising kids. And I was talking to you earlier about the transitional stages of where
Right,
my kids are right now.
right,
And
right.
it had been like a week. And I'm like, we have been traveling and stuff like that. And I'm like, something feels odd. It feels weird. And I
Yes.
talked when he was like, babe, we really haven't touched. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yes, I
when
do. I do.
constantly with all the traveling, and then once we get in the house, we're just dead tired. I mean, if you're out there and you're a sports mom or you're at college, all those things.
Yes.
And it's like, dang, we haven't even like hugged. That's
Mhm,
insane.
mhm.
And if you don't pay attention to those small things, because small things, just human touch,
Yes,
you will lose sight of that. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm glad that we noticed that because that could have really caused a wedge, and you know what happened when you have wedges? That's how
yes,
outside voices and noises get in, and then it becomes something else. So
absolutely,
it is
absolutely.
it is important to stay on top of that relationship first. So
Absolutely, absolutely, and that it's so funny you say we haven't even touched, and that's literally statements that Rob and I have used. I'm like,
Mhm.
wait a minute, it's been 5 days. I have not even seen your face, and so we sometimes out like you said, traveling. I get home and we're literally just touching each other's hands in the garage, you know,
And
and
passing
so
by.
yeah, and so,
Yeah,
we're like, "No, wait a minute, stop for a second," and,
mhm,
sometimes I literally just take his face and just like, "Let me look
have
at you
to.
for a minute," because when you have made those connections with your spouse, you want to maintain those because that's the safety, that's the stuff that reminds you that, "Hey, this is my person, whatever is going on the outside of these doors, cannot break what's happening in here." And
Yes,
so with that, I want to always remind our audience that, hey, you might be newlywed, you might just be getting into that part that, that really, what is it? I don't want to call it struggle, but it's a little discomfort.
weird. It's
And
the weird part. It's the I don't
it
know
is
what's
weird.
going on, but I don't like what's going on, and I can't really describe what's going on, but I know
Yeah,
it's not what I want to go on. That it's a
right.
weird space
Yes,
for
and it
sure.
truly is, it truly is. I
Mm,
I call that stage part of that is the power struggle stage where,
yeah.
I am my person, he is his person. We're trying to create this new thing, this marriage. What is this thing? But I still want to maintain who I am. And he wants to maintain who he is, not realizing that parts of us have to die in order to come together to
Hello?
form this new thing.
Hello?
And
We want
so
we
I want us
right.
to I know we definitely want to speak to that, in our conversation today. So, I really want to jump into, and I know there's so many areas that we could jump into, but
Absolutely.
I know you wanted to look at why so many women are initiating divorce within that 5 to 7 year span. What is happening in those first few years of marriage? Why you think that that's happening?
Well, for me, I think that honestly, that question can go a lot of different ways, but I think the basis of it is that women romanticize marriage too much.
Mm.
Marriage is not a movie. It is not a script.
Huh?
You will not get credits wrote at the end. You do not know what that marriage is going to look like for you.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that a lot of us, when we look at TV or even people we know, we
Hmm.
romanticize those relationships like, oh my gosh, I can't wait until, oh my gosh, she's gonna
Yeah.
kiss Prince. And but the thing is, the truth of the matter is, you don't even know what your own marriage is gonna look like, let alone thinking you're gonna mirror someone else's. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no way for you to know what that marriage is gonna truly look like until you're in it. The
Let me say
problem
this real quick.
Go ahead.
Hold on, Jasmine. Before going back to the romanticizing part, because I
Mhm.
was just telling someone recently on right here on this podcast is we get caught up in that ever after. So we're
Mm,
like, yeah, we're gonna get married, and this is the ever after. But the thing is, because a lot of us are treating marriage like the destination and
mm,
not the beginning, like the
journey.
starting line,
It's a
the
journey.
ever after, nobody knows how to live the ever after. And that's
Nope,
what I'm hearing you say. I don't even we didn't even
nope.
well, let's say we didn't even talk about this. But that
Because
ever
I
after,
see it. I
yeah,
see it. I'm immersed in marriages. I talk to a lot of married couples, and
right.
it's always the same thing. And honestly, people have silent expectations, not only of their spouse, but of themselves. And I
Mhm.
don't think a lot of women recognize that. They assume they're going to be a certain type of wife. They assume their spouse is going to be a certain type of husband. They assume how their marriage is gonna make them feel. When
Mm,
honestly, when you're trying to figure that out, it might not feel the best.
yeah,
Because what I have learned is for you to find your true self and something that is gonna show you the very ugly parts of oneself is marriage, baby, over and over and over again. It is gonna expose them things that you think not that bad. It's
mhm.
actually horrible. And you're gonna have to change it. You're gonna have to let it go. And it's okay. It doesn't mean that you're different. It means that you're evolving. And that's okay. It
Yes.
is okay to be different than who you used to be. It does not mean that you're a sellout or I don't want to do this. Or, I don't want to be submissive. Or, I don't want to do. And
Mm,
that's not what marriage is about. Marriage is a partnership. We must learn from each other. In order to learn, we have to be willing to listen.
absolutely.
And if we aren't willing to listen about those ugly things about ourselves, it's going to continue to fester, especially if we don't want to change it.
Mm-hmm.
I have a belief that your spouse should not have to tell you twice something that bothers them.
Expand on that, please.
I feel, you know, we'll go through this over and over, but at the end of the day, if I tell you this hurts me, this bothers me, this upsets me, and
Mm-hmm.
we actually have an open and honest conversation, and sometimes that might not happen because maybe your marriage isn't as safe as you would like it to be.
Mm-hmm.
However, comma, if I say this to you, if you respect me, yourself, in this marriage enough, I should never have to say it again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Those are the truisms of partnership. That's how that works. I cannot continue to say, hey, when you turn left, it jerks my neck a little bit and you continue to turn left.
Mm.
Because then it's like, well, okay, are you disregarding me? Now I feel invisible. Now I feel like when I speak, I'm being muffled. Now I don't want to speak anymore because you don't care. And now your voice gets smaller and smaller. And now here we are. I'm just quiet and I'm just letting my marriage do whatever it's gonna do because I feel like you're not gonna listen anyway. And that
Mm.
and that that goes both ways. That
Yeah.
goes for a husband, that goes for a wife. And I think a lot of times when wives speak about their marriage, they believe that when they speak, they're only speaking about their husband and
Mm.
not about their shortcomings as well that created the situation.
Right. Right.
And sometimes even you may have to say it 2 times, 3 times, 4 times.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you have to explain it different. That sucks, but
Mm.
that's marriage.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
think every time there has to break away at what that is and what that looks like in order to really get to what you want.
Yeah, because your reaction in those moments when I bring up a situation, when I raise a concern, your reaction to that is sending the message to me of how safe I am to bring up the next thing. And so if I am not being heard in the last 15 times,
Mhm.
more than likely my voice will start getting smaller and
Or
smaller.
if it's met with aggression.
Or that bitterness or that resentment, that's
Yes,
where all of that comes
because
out,
at
yeah.
this point, we're not really working to, because I just feel like this. If we're both in this marriage and this is what we want our marriage to look like
Yeah.
together,
Mhm.
that requires me and you to listen, hear, listen to understand. That's numero uno. I think a lot of people listen to respond and they
Yeah,
don't listen to actually understand and empathize with their spouse. Just because you don't understand something doesn't mean that it's not happening.
correct.
Just because you believe that you didn't act that way or doesn't mean that it isn't happening. I think I talk to my husband about this all the time because I'm very reactive in a way from body language,
Mhm.
facial expressions. You know that just by the way I act, I'm very animated in a sense.
Correct.
And that can come across as too much or um the face didn't meet my actual thoughts.
Mhm, mhm,
And I can't expect my spouse to fully understand all of that.
mhm,
So it is your job that if your spouse says, "Hey, this is how I felt when you said that. Hey, look, I did not mean that. This is what I meant. I'm
mhm.
sorry if that came across that way. This was absolutely not what I meant. This
Mm.
is why I did what I you the why is so important.
It is, it
It
is.
is so I think that people think that that absolute no or that absolute yes or maybe that has to come with the why in marriage. It must. Because
Yes.
they have to understand why I said no, why I said I don't know, why I even said yes.
Mhm.
Because that why explains it, and then from there, we can actually have a conversation.
Correct, correct. 100%. When we talk about, awareness, Self-awareness for starters. I was talking to my son this morning, and that's one of the topics that came up. Self-awareness to me, in my opinion, obviously it ain't gospel, but it's my gospel.
Mhm, mhm.
Self-awareness is half the battle because I gotta first acknowledge that something is wrong, right?
Absolutely.
So for you as a wife, because this is where we personalize it now, because hey, like I said, we've gone through those different seasons. So in
Mhm.
order to be married this long, where you got college age children, we have seen some seasons, right? So
Baby.
share share with our audience. I'll start with like some of expectations. When you
Mhm.
when you and Chris got married, what were some of the silent expectations that you had to get to the point where you say, wait a minute, this is not working, this is not what we expected.
Mhm.
Tell us about that season and how you went from there to here, basically.
You know, I always find that funny, even when I spoke about, silent expectations earlier.
Mhm,
I don't think I had any, and I think that's where it really was bad for me
mhm.
because it wasn't mostly a expectation, but a feeling.
Gotcha.
I wanted to feel a certain way. I thought I would feel, I don't
Fulfill.
know, maybe put up on a pedestal or
Mhm,
different than everyone else. And for me, I got married so young,
mhm,
I feel
mhm.
like I didn't have a chance to know what an expectation would look like. I didn't really have like model relationships that I modeled it after or things
Mhm.
like that. So I was kind of just like pulling at straws, like, well, I feel like that would be cool. Well, I don't know. Well, I thought that was cool, but I don't really like that.
Yeah.
Or I don't know. And so I feel like for me, um, my biggest struggle was figuring out who I was. I
Mhm.
did not, for the better part of the beginning of our marriage, um, I always say I was just Mommy and Mrs. Davis. I
Got
had lost Jasmine. I think because I got married so young, I got married at 19 years old.
Mhm.
I did not I feel like at 19, we all been 19, we think we know everything and we think that we're grown
Right.
and we all these things, but I was not, and I did not know anything about being a woman, anything about being a wife, even a
Mhm.
mom, any of those things, and it was such a whirlwind for me, and once I identified who Jasmine actually was, I was able to be a better mom, I was able to be a better person, I was able to be a better wife, and so for me, the expectations really lied in myself.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out who I was without people telling me who I should be or
Mm.
what a wife should be or what you should do as a wife, and it's like, "Oh, okay. Well, let me do this. Oh, okay. Let me do that." That's what a good wife looks like. That's what a godly
Mm.
wife is. That's what I should be doing, and it's like,
Sis, sis, speak on that.
it muffles your voice.
Yes.
Because when you got so many voices telling you what to do, how to move, sit up straight, walk this way, don't do
Yeah.
that to your husband, do this to your husband. And
Mhm.
it's like, well, okay, well, this is not working for me. And
Mhm.
now my marriage is just like, yuck. Like, I don't feel good in this. I don't think my spouse feels good in this. And it's
Yeah.
like, once I start connecting with him, like, hey, I don't really like how this makes me feel. And he like, well, you ain't gotta do that. I don't care about that anyway. And it's like, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, well, wait, well, let's talk about this too, because I don't like this, you know?
Look, hold this. Look,
Listen,
I'm out.
flag on the play.
I'm throwing all the flags down. Because sis,
Weird.
you are it was like
What?
yes, because you are hitting all the targets. Instead of sitting down with our spouse and say, "Babe, this is our marriage. This is what we want. This is the type of marriage we're looking for. This is the outcomes we're looking for." We have invited all these different voices nowadays, social media, all of the
It is
influencers,
right now.
the what you call it, the sound bites and the memes times we have allowed those things to be the voices in our marriage instead of actually sitting down with our spouse and saying, babe, this is what we want. I love how, yeah, I can hear Chris. I don't care about that anyhow.
At
I
all.
I don't know why you were doing that.
I thought you liked it.
Why? Because somebody else told you that. You never had the conversation with him. And I think that's a lot that's still going on. That is still such a thing with our new couples because they're busy looking at the
Oh, no, the new couples are aesthetic wives. Everything is postable, what you can post, what you can brag about, what you can get like on,
everything has to be this yeah,
manufactured.
this
It
yeah, manufactured, exactly, and it has to be this
Mhm.
social media ready type of
Yep,
thing, you setting up cameras, and this is the way you get out of bed, and this is the are you serious right now?
please. Girl,
It's and so then it gets to the point where we say, "Okay, now my marriage is all over the place because, my husband or my voice aren't the only
it doesn't have
influencer
a
in this."
foundation.
Exactly.
It just
Exactly.
has spots.
Yes.
Nothing
M
really firm.
My husband called those, snapshots. He said, "That's
Yes.
only a snapshot,"
I
because you didn't see what it took to create that shot. You didn't see all of the things that, that show up in the moment. Yeah, when you see when I tell people that, okay, Rob and I, we take, since 2012, we have started, we manage our money in a way so that we can take a month off once a year,
yeah.
right? People see that as a snapshot. I want your life, but you don't see my life the other 11 months.
11 months.
You're right. You don't see when my husband worked that overtime. You don't see when we say, no, we're not going to buy that because we want this.
Ooh.
You don't see that part, you
Nope.
know? And so the same way, it's like you hit, I mean, man, you hit all
They
of
see a
those.
picture and they make it a movie. You have
Yes.
no idea the sacrifice it took, the breaking down it took,
Yeah.
the microscope it took on me,
Hmm.
on him, on our marriage to get to what you think you see.
Yeah. What you think you see. Yeah,
Very
exactly.
it's always what you think you see because a lot of people don't like to show you the ugly. That's why for me, I've always been super transparent because I think it's vital. You have to be transparent and we all know our testimony isn't for us, it's for other people. And
Right.
so if you get through those things and you don't speak about it, who you trying to protect what? How you
Hmm.
trying to protect something God already delivered your marriage from? What you protecting?
That part. Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. It's like we do these things and these things occur so that other people can see, don't sit and say, "Oh, girl, yeah, we just made it work."
No,
No,
we've been,
you tried the bathroom in that shower multiple times. You felt like you was unheard. You felt
yeah.
that is marriage.
Yes.
That's partnership. And I'm telling you, if you want longevity, that means you're gonna have to grow up in your marriage. That means you're gonna change who you are. That means you might like them a little bit, but you ain't quite sure if you madly in love for a second. You don't know. Sometimes those things feel like that. You know what
Yes,
I
it
mean? Some
does.
some
Yes.
people think that, oh, okay, well, we'll be mad at each other for a month. Sometimes a rocky space in your marriage may be a year.
Mhm. Mhm.
It
Mhm.
may just be. You just never know. And sometimes it takes that, okay, let me get over myself. Let
Mhm.
let let me get over myself. That's not gonna work. I'm only
But
damaging what I have spent so much time building by being stubborn, by being
mhm.
stuck in my own way, by saying I ain't giving no more, by
Yep.
saying I ain't, because we get like that. Well,
Yes,
listen, I ain't changing no more. I'm
I'm
not
done.
I just because you changed don't mean I gotta change. And I'm telling you, sometimes your husband may change and it may take him here and take you over here. Y'all gotta work that way back
Yes.
because they are allowed to grow as people. We are
Mhm.
allowed to change what we like.
Mhm.
That's marriage. But at the core of who we are, we have to still love that person. That's
Yes.
why this meme I always think about where it's a couple on a bench and it's raining and they have their backs to each other, but the husband is still holding that umbrella over his
Umbrella
wife.
over her e mhm. I
I
seen that
love
one.
that because that is marriage.
Yes.
Because at
Yeah.
the end of the day, the storms are gonna happen. We
Mhm.
may not turn around yet because I don't want to, and
Yeah.
now I'm mad, and
But
now
I
I feel
care
away.
about
'Cause
you. I still care
listen,
about you. I still
I
don't want
still
you to
love
leave.
you. Listen, Imma still make that plate, but I ain't gonna say nothing after I make it. You know what I mean?
I
And,
would.
and it's so funny to me because in the early part of my marriage, I used to be so petty, Karen, I make up half the bed. I did, and God is my witness. I did stuff like that. And it's like, what am I accomplishing by being so, you know what I mean? And that's not helping anything, but it to me, in a young marriage, I ain't doing that.
Yeah.
I ain't doing his laundry. I dump his stuff on the side of his bed. I'm not doing things that I would normally do. I stopped being that covering
Mhm.
for my marriage. And it's like, oh my goodness, if I make a false step and God stop covering me like I'm
Mm.
doing my husband, Lord, what state would I be in? And it
Yeah.
really, if you're really ready for that, go ahead and get married. Cause it's
Yeah.
going, I'm telling you that microscope gonna be different. Cause
Yeah.
you can put that microscope on your spouse, but you also have to be willing to put that mirror to you. You
Exactly.
must. It's the only way to keep that going. But I'm telling you, I was petty Eddie. Oh,
Yes.
it was
And
bad.
I think I can speak for myself. Um I was the one of the last episodes that I did. I was talking to a young lady about the same thing. She said, "You listen, I would be silent for a week." I said, "Yeah, I wasn't that bad. I did 3 days. So for 3 days, I ain't speaking to you. I don't care, you know." And
Listen,
the thing is, a lot of it was obviously me turning that mirror around instead of the microscope being on him. But I want
mm,
to go back to something that you said earlier.
mhm,
um, we have to actually show people how we got through things,
absolutely.
not just show them how we arrive. And I want to, of course, talk to, especially us as believers. We have
Mm.
a way of telling people, just pray harder. We have a way of
Oh,
telling
I hate
people,
that so much.
just have faith. Or, instead of actually showing folks how faith actually works, what it actually look like. Because the Bible does say faith without works is dead. So what am I doing? What is the works that I am putting in? What does it look like? What I think as believers in the church in general, the
Mhm,
way that I think that we have y- as let me back up. The church as itself, as we know, is the bride of Christ. We know that Jesus died for it. We're not None of that is being argued here.
mhm,
But the church on its own, I remember when the mothers in the church, well, I'm not gonna say mom, the mothers in the church
mhm,
would tell you things like, um, sex is bad, stay away, fornication is a sin, and by right it is. Nobody's over here glorifying sex outside of marriage. If you're a believer, that's that's the
mhm,
direction that we're going. But at the same time, the conversation, in my opinion, should have been,
mhm.
sex is a great, amazing thing that God created, but should be enjoyed in the confines of marriage. Because a lot of us got to marriage with that mindset that now we have to retrain
Sad.
our brain to say, no, this is actually something God created. It's not like yesterday I hated sex is not something I should be looking at, shut my eyes. This is bad, horrible. And then the next day you get married, and now you're supposed to understand
You
sex,
expect it.
intimacy.
Oh,
Girl,
listen.
it's like all of that comes
Is
together.
that supposed to be the fruit that you're supposed to eat, and you're supposed to know how to eat it
Yes,
and how to do it in the best way possible, but also nobody wants to talk to you about it
and
because
that's
because because it's forbidden and we don't talk about what happens in our bedrooms, and you should
that's
shy away
right.
from that. Or you
That's
should, and I think that's why for me, um, I always say sometimes sex saved my marriage because listen, if that wasn't good, I don't know.
right.
Listen, Karen, listen to me. Because at the end of the day, I think
Go
that it's
ahead.
important. No, seriously.
Yes, yes,
Seriously, because sometimes when your mind is racing and
mhm,
you connect with your spouse in that way,
right,
especially if you are connected in that way,
yeah.
once you do, it's like, all right,
Yeah, let's have a
let's,
meet.
because in the beginning, Karen, I used to always say, listen, if it ain't right, my faucet ain't running, but that's also something that you grow into and you
Correct.
understand that sex is how you connect with your spouse.
Yes.
It's also how you release things of this world to
Mm,
center you. And I
mm.
think enough people don't talk about sex and marriage. It's such a taboo thing, and I just don't get that. And that's what makes it hard. And a lot of people, I always speak about, you know, the church as far as marriage ministry, because
Mhm.
you're not about to go talk to your pastor about what's going on in your sex life, and because you don't want to be embarrassed or you don't want to expose. But oftentimes those are the things that you need to be open and willing to talk about, and that can make it
Yes.
hard. And
Yeah.
now it's pray more. Well, that's not going to help, because I need somebody to actually talk to me about what's going on, and why my husband wants this and why he wants that and why I'm unwilling to do it, and why does it make me feel unclean if I do.
Yes.
Things are
Yes.
important.
Yes. I and in that same vein, because we're gonna stay here for a minute. In that same vein, what I saw was young people being encouraged to get married, but were unprepared. So how do I argue well? Oh, just pray for your spouse. Well, how do we navigate conflict? Well, just keep praying for her. Keep praying for him. Well,
No.
okay, now that I prayed, now how do I go through? How do I go through the day? How do I go through the day?
Prayer is faith, but works is the tools. You
Yes,
need the tools. I need to say,
yes,
okay, if the conversation isn't going right, what do I do? If
yes,
if I came in with an intent to say this, now it's going haywire. What do I do in the midst of that before we escalate this to
exactly,
something it shouldn't even be?
exactly.
And that's so vital to say, what happens when, and this is why I always say, in regards to having arguments or disagreements or whatever you want to call it,
Mhm.
it's important that we seek clarity before we involve our emotions, because
Right.
we cannot get to the bottom of it because we're so emotional about the situation. And your emotions, hey, they're valid. You can
Yeah,
feel your emotions, but
mhm,
in order for us to gain clarity in this situation so that we can grow in it, I need to understand first. I can't
mhm,
get defensive or offended, and I feel some type of way about what you said, and now is we done gone off track. We done lost the plot, because
yeah,
now I'm in my feelings, and I can't get past that, because I'm no longer seeking that clarity.
exactly,
I'm just putting my emotions first. And
exactly.
setting your emotions aside when you're hurt is very hard. I
Hard,
would not
hard.
sit here and say that it's not, but
Mm.
I will tell you that if you allow your emotions to drive that car, you're gonna wreck
Off the cliff. You're off the cliff.
every time.
Off the cliff every time. I keep saying, your emotion, God gave us our emotions for a reason. However, they are not the drivers. They're just signals. That's all they are.
That something's wrong. That's
Yes,
it.
when I feel whatever that is, that's just an indication that, okay, a nerve just got hit. What
Yep.
is it? Stay curious.
Why? Why did that hit? And
Exactly.
sometimes
Ask
it's
the
not your
question.
spouse. Hello, sometimes it's not your spouse. Sometimes that thing offended you because of something you feel that somebody said to you when you was 10.
That part. That part.
It struck a nerve because you didn't address the things that make you feel some type of way about yourself. It
There's
has nothing to do with your spouse.
Jasmine, I cannot remember the scripture right now. If you're listening, go look it up. Um, but I think it's right after Jesus came out of the wilderness and he was telling the disciples that um, the enemy came, the devil came, but he found nothing in me. And I
Mhm.
always think about that scripture because in Jesus's case, the devil came to tempt him in the wilderness. But everything that he came, Jesus came at him with the word. In other words, he came trying to appeal to Jesus's emotions, and there was nothing inside of Jesus for the enemy to connect with. Now,
Absolutely.
obviously, we are not perfect like Jesus, so we are
Absolutely.
growing. And so
Mhm.
every single time something comes up and it connects with your emotion, or it connects with
If
whatever
it
that
ain't
feels.
just, you got to figure that out. And that's
Yes.
the mirror. that we're speaking of.
That's the mirror right there.
Because
Exactly. Ex
why did this affect me so gravely?
Yes.
Because it's like 100 people can say, "Hey, um, you're nasty when you talk to people." And you're like,
Mhm. Mhm.
when your spouse say it, because honestly, a lot of us, we take these things in, and even though we think we let it roll off our back, we
Yeah.
really did we deposited it and we just stuffed it down. But once our spouse says it, because we respect their opinion,
Mhm.
that emotion pours, and you're like, "That was so mean. That was
Mhm.
so nasty of you." And it's like, "No, I'm speaking my truth
Yes.
about what you do and how it affects me.
Mhm.
It doesn't mean that I think you're a bad person. It just means that your responses to me is
Mm.
affecting me in a way that I don't like.
Yes.
And it's either you're gonna change that to be better for us, or you can continue to be that way, and our marriage is not gonna be its best self
Is best
because you
exactly.
chose. You
Exactly.
chose to not shine a light on that part of you because you don't wanna deal with it. "Well, why do I talk like that?" That's one thing I had to say to myself, "Why do I talk so aggressive? Why do?" And it's like, "Oh, you had to protect yourself as a kid. You
Exactly.
had you had to." If you grew up in the inner city, anyone
Yeah.
that's listening, you know that that outside armor has to be there so that you don't become a victim. It's like
Right.
everything I do, I can't let people see me or view me as weak,
Mm.
and I have to react a certain way. But at the end of the day, that is your spouse. You should not have that armor on you when you
Mhm.
speak, but you don't see that, and you can't hold that mirror to yourself because you're just like, "This is who I am, and
Yeah.
this is what it is. When you married me, I was like this. When you
Yeah.
that what does
Yeah.
that have to do with being better?"
Yeah, yeah. And how many new, couples in that
Mhm.
time period, that 1 to 7 year point, that will sit down and have that conversation and say, "Hey, I was like this when you married me. This is just who I
People
am."
said this to me.
I'm like, but
No, it's a
hey,
character flaw. It's
there's
actually a flaw. Yes.
yeah, but there's
I
still
still
that
love
moment
you.
where we say, hey,
Yes.
iron does sharpen iron. And
Mhm.
we have to chip away at those things that are not part of the what do you say, part of the ingredients required to build this new thing. But I wanna, divert us a little bit. One of the things that I remember somebody asking me when I first started my business, they asked me, what's gonna separate you from other coaches? What make you
Mhm.
different? And
Yeah.
I always said that, especially as a believer, I said, I want to approach marriage differently, in the sense of, I
Mm.
want to talk about the things that we are not talking about in church. I want to
Absolutely.
talk about how we argue. I want to talk about how we fight. I want to talk about money. I want to talk about attachment styles. I do want to talk about your love language, but we're going to get there in a minute. But
Mhm.
I want to talk about how we what our overview of marriage is, because I think all we hear is submission. That's it. The other
Yes.
day I was thinking about I was my girlfriends and I did a Bible study, and what we did was, as business women, we pull out some of the nuggets from the Proverb 31 woman. And so I
Mm.
went back and I started looking at it again, and I was like, there is something for men to learn from this
Mm.
very chapter.
Yep.
And like I shared before, we jumped to verse 10 all the way to 31 to describe what the woman's checklist is going to look like. But in verse 1 through 9, King Lemuel's mom was literally telling him what he needed to do, how he needed to be as a man.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
no one from the pulpit, at least not since I've been a believer, and I've been saved
Yeah.
since I was 16, I am almost 60 years old. No one from the pulpit has ever explained to us that
Yeah.
King Lemuel's mother was literally telling him, dude, first of all, as his mom, she recognized that he had purpose, right?
Mhm.
Then she went in to say, these are the types of relationships you should be going after. She never told him that this is what the woman's supposed to look like. All she said to him was, these are the characteristics that you need to be going after or looking for, right?
Mhm.
She talked about self-control. Don't be drunk
Absolutely.
with wine. Don't be over there losing your mind in situations to where you cannot even walk away with a clear head or your judgment becomes clouded. All of
Mhm.
those things. Nobody
Yep.
talked about verse 1 through 9.
Nope.
And so how are, and this is not a man bashing. We are married to men. We have sons.
No,
So this conversation needs
absolutely,
to
but they
go.
don't really. I mean, mostly you hear in church is, for a man, love your wife as God so loved the church.
Mhm.
Be a breadwinner.
Mhm.
That's it. I,
So, so,
I'm I
so, yeah, so
really.
yeah, so going back to that, what are we doing to prepare young men for marriage?
Oh,
You know,
absolutely. I always say I'm raising my sons to be a husband. I'm not just raising them to be men. I'm raising them to see women,
yeah,
also identify what you need, who you are. And if
yes.
you do not know who you are, you're going to damage the women you come in contact with.
Mhm.
That's simple math.
Mhm.
And it's important that, I feel like just like we spoke about earlier with social media, I feel like women are viewed now as an item to obtain instead of what it takes to keep it.
Yeah.
Women aren't something you just take off the shelf and play with and put back.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so it's important to understand how you deal with women. Women and men are different. And
Yes.
so with that being said, you have to learn how to navigate women,
Mhm.
but also you have to identify what you actually want in a woman. Because if you're going just by how they look, you're gonna find yourself in the world of trouble a lot.
Yes. You be going from one
Because
relationship to the next.
you know doggone well you want a woman with substance.
Mhm.
But if you chasing after something and then you sitting at the table and you can't have a real conversation, that's on you.
That's on you. You did that.
That's a choice.
Yeah.
And it's
You
the same with women as well. You chasing a man with money, or you chasing a man with status, or you in a certain lifestyle, and now this man can't give you what you really need. And now you're in a marriage where you're lonely. Well, you're
Yeah.
lonely because you didn't get a partner. You got an ATM.
Mm. Mm.
And money cannot it let me tell you, it's gonna leave a lot of emptiness. Once
Yeah.
that money is spent, some may
Yeah.
come in, you may spend it again, but those feelings you have are gonna still be there once you're done shopping.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
Those are the truisms
Yeah.
of marriage. I mean, you can lay in the bed at night with 4 carat ring on, and that
Mm.
man don't even acknowledge you when he
Yeah.
sees you.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And it's
I
important
do.
that we identify those things because that's what it's all about. It's
Yes.
all about fullness, but we're seeking the aesthetic of marriage and not actually marriage.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And I agree with that 100% because I've always been candid about, Rob and I. Yes, Rob and I did, I'm gonna give credit where credit is due. My husband and I, we have done marriage well. The thing is, there was a time when we didn't.
Of course.
Because we're both divorced. We're
Mhm.
both divorcees. So when we came together, the only thing we knew was we're not going to do that.
That again.
We
Yeah.
we had to come to a place where we have to figure out, okay, so what is it that our marriage is going to need in order to be successful in our definition,
Yeah.
right? And that's part of the reason why I was telling you earlier that, hey, I bring on different guests on this podcast because I am not the only one that does marriage well. There are other people that have done it well, and and I would bet to say, as good a friend as you and I are, we do things differently in our household.
Absolutely. I mean, but that's
So
the point. And this is why marriage is so beautiful because your marriage is what you want it to look like, not
yes,
what society thinks it should look like, not what your mama think it should look like, not what
Mm.
your auntie think it should look like, not what the first lady thinks, not what the mother of the church thinks, not
That's
even
right.
what the pastor think, because at the end of the day, that's not what that is. That if God is okay with what you're doing in your marriage, keep doing it. Do
Yes.
what makes you happy. Do what makes your family work. A
Yeah.
lot of people say like, "Oh, well, I couldn't have did that. I can't let a man take care of me." Well, your man.
That's you, girl.
Because and a lot of it, that was something I had to learn too early on in my marriage. I think by being a military wife
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then going to a different work, then after military life, you still kind of ran your home like that because it
Yeah.
works for
Mhm.
me. And, anyone that has had a military relationship understands that
Mhm.
your life kind of revolves around your spouse because they're
Good.
deploying, they're this, they're that, you're stationed here, you're doing whatever. And it's kind of like you're going through the motions of just raising your family, and that affords you to be home
Mhm.
oftentimes. And so that lifestyle is what we were accustomed to. But,
Yeah.
if my mom was sitting right here, she would tell you how many times I don't agree with that. I don't agree with you not working. I don't agree because now you're putting all your eggs in one basket and now you're dependent on this man to take care of you. What if
Mhm.
one day he say he don't want to? What if one day all those things can be
Yes.
true, but
Yes.
that is her story and it's not mine.
Yes. Yes.
And if I would have listened to that
Mhm.
and taken that part away from my marriage, which honestly is where my husband thrives. He
Mm.
loves being a provider. He
Yeah.
loves it. He
Yeah.
loves that, "Hey, I like that you home. If you wanna work, cool, but if you
Mm.
don't wanna work, that's better."
Right,
That
right.
worked for him, and that was also something that he battles because there's men that tell him, "Man, she be out there working. I
Mm.
couldn't deal with no woman." But if
Yeah.
you allow those things to
Yes.
dictate what is happening, your marriage is gonna look very different, and it's gonna put you in a tailspin that you don't know what you're doing because you allowed too much noise.
Yes.
This works for us, and it's been working. I
Mm.
done wrote 2 books, I got a master's degree, and I'm still at home doing what I wanna do, doing what I wanna do with my time, working for myself if I want
Yeah.
to, if I don't want to, but this works for me,
You
and
know
this
what's so funny? What's so funny, Jasmine? Because when we met, I remember you were finishing up your bachelor's. You're like, I'm going back to school, finishing up my bachelor's. I'm like, y'all, this girl don't finish up the bachelor's, don't knock out a master's, and roll her books. And
Yep,
and that's the thing. It, when you have a spouse that recognize that you are more than what they physically see,
yeah,
realize that there are gifts and talents on the inside of you, the marriage needs what's in you. You're not just showing up as a shell, you're showing up with all the gifts and callings and anointings and grace that God has put on the inside of you. Talking about the military, excuse me, the military life. And so,
mhm,
of course, that was, Rob and I's story as well. Um, but on the flip, so here I was the military spouse. I was the one who he followed around,
yep,
around the world, around the country, that kind of thing.
mhm,
And you would have that voice. You would have, first of all, when he got out the military, and some of the voices I heard was, "How you gonna marry a man without a job?" You
woo,
know, and it was like, yeah, that noise could have cost me this amazing person that I'm married to
oh my
now.
gosh,
Yeah, that
it
was some of
could
the things
really cost you.
yes.
It
And
can, and it's sad.
yes, I I
Yeah,
wanna I wanna I wanna key in on the importance of knowing, not just important to know who you are first, because
absolutely.
it's who once you know who you are, and then you know what you want from your relationship,
Yep,
right? And until you and I know that, we
mhm,
won't have the marriage that we think we want. Like you said earlier, and I love your example. And if you don't if you, the list as listeners, if you don't take away anything else from Jasmine's conversation,
mhm,
what sh the learn or to say the takeaway here is You cannot go into your marriage with all these other voices telling you how your marriage supposed to look like. Because at the end of the day, you're gonna be 3, 4, 5 years in, and you're not recognizing your marriage at all because it is a
For
sum
yourself.
total. It's a sum total of everybody else's
Oh my
voice,
Lord.
right? And so if you don't take away anything else, definitely take away this. The all in. When you mentioned that
All eggs in one basket.
yes, the all that example. You know, if we're married, if we're saying I do,
Listen to me. And you putting the eggs somewhere else.
uh,
Mm.
that part, right? Why can't your eggs be in one basket? This is what you said you wanted. If you want your eggs spread around, don't get married.
Because
It's
you
for
told God you was all in anyway. You did.
like,
You stood right there and you told God and your spouse that
yes,
you was all in anyhow. And guess what? If this doesn't work, I know I put all my eggs there. If it doesn't work, I'll get more eggs.
yeah, that part, yes.
Seriously, because
Yeah,
honestly, just like you said, life doesn't stop after a divorce, right?
mhm,
You're a testament of that.
correct.
You get what I mean? But did that stop you from remarrying? No, it doesn't. But I know one thing, if I do have to walk away from this situation, I know I did everything that I needed to do in order to grow it. Okay?
Exactly.
Because grass is only greener when you what?
Watch
Water it.
it. 100%.
Okay? Because a lot of people now want to get turf and then they wonder why ain't nothing growing from it. Because it's
Ooh,
fake.
yes.
You
Yes.
haven't done nothing to make anything blossom, harvest, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
fruits bloom, or
Yeah.
whatever. You have done nothing but want it to look pretty. And that's why it's going to stay looking fake no matter the season.
And that's so true because when you think about it, if your marriage is only snapshots, then
Absolutely.
there's no life in it, you know, and things only grow when you add life to it, when you plant it, when you till
Yes.
it, when you sow, yeah, there's gonna be some dry spots. So you get over there in the dry spots and you put a little fertilizer on it, you
You'll
get
have
some
some
seed.
weeds.
Yes, you get
You're gonna
some
put you're gonna put something on them weeds, they're gonna grow back again.
yes. Yeah. You gotta pull things up from the root. Yeah.
But you still gotta work it. You can't
Correct.
go out there and make a good garden this spring, right? Knowing that it's gonna go through seasons, knowing when spring come back around, you're gonna have to go back to that same garden and do it again, right? You'll
Mhm.
do that, but you won't do it in your marriage.
Mm. It's like the concept
It doesn't translate.
doesn't translate. And it's
You'll
a
you'll get new summer clothes. You'll get a new wardrobe. Oh, that's old. Imma throw
mm,
that out. You'll get so many new things, but you just don't wanna do the work, and that's a lot of it. People
yeah.
just don't wanna do the work to reap
Mm-mm.
those benefits, but it takes work. It takes time also. You can't plant
Yeah.
a rose bush today and think it's gonna bloom
Yeah.
tomorrow. It's
Yeah.
work that has to go through. What you gotta do with the rose bush? You gotta prick it, you gotta
Mhm.
cut it.
Prune
Sometimes you
it.
gotta start over,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
that's what you have to do to see what you wanna see at the end.
But
Work.
Jasmine, do you think that some people are afraid of going all in because of the uncertainty of the
Absolutely.
road? Yeah.
Failure failure is the biggest reason why people don't take leaps in anything. That's
Mhm.
in personal life, that's in, "Hey, I wanna go back to school, but, I don't think I can do it. Hey, I
Mhm.
wanna change my job, but, is it too late in life to change what I wanna do? I
Mhm.
really I really have a passion in that, but it's the same thing with everything. The failure part, it's like that's just like women that say, "Hey, you always gotta have that account your spouse don't know about. You always gotta have this that this person doesn't know about." It's like you're setting yourself up for, "Okay, this gonna fail. Let me help myself.
Yeah.
Oh, this is gonna," all those things come into play. Like, yes, things may happen.
Mhm.
Yes,
Mhm.
it may not work, but what if
Mhm.
it does?
It
Like,
does.
what if it does? Because you're so afraid of it not working, you're not even thinking about if it does.
Yes.
You don't
Yes.
even have the hope that it does. It's like, "Okay, well, let's just see what happens." But
Yeah.
that hope is not there. It's
Yeah.
like, "Well, I prayed about it, and Imma go ahead and go about my business."
Mhm.
Girl,
Yeah.
you can pray until you blue in the face, and God gonna look at you and say, "Well, what you doing?" I mean,
Mhm.
after you was done praying, did you even talk to your spouse about what you was thinking?
Mhm.
Did you and for me, a lot of the times, I remember I said early on, my husband used to say I talked aggressive, and it would because my husband is not really a aggressive he's
Right.
aggressive, not when he speaks. It's like
Yeah.
it's a little different,
Right.
and, I had to find it was stages in my marriage, I had to find a different way to communicate with my spouse because I realized that I wasn't gonna get to him the way I needed to and have him understand me because of what I looked like on the exterior when I spoke.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I said, "Okay," we started to journal together. That was one of the biggest turning points in my marriage. I got a composition book from the Dollar Tree. I would write him and he would write me back. No
Yeah.
interruptions, no nothing. It it
Tell
it started to be even
tell us
questions.
how that worked. Yes. Tell us about I didn't even know you did that. Tell me about that.
Yes. So, like, there was a time where I felt like I didn't wanna be interrupted. I wanted him to actually understand what I was saying and not it turn into something else.
Mhm.
And I would just write a page in the composition book, and I would put it on his side of the bed with a pen. Sometimes he would take it to work. He would write me back, or he'll go downstairs, he'll write me back, and he'll put it on my side of the bed.
Wow.
And it got to a point where we don't even journal anymore because we really got to a point we understood. You know what I mean? He understood me in a space where he can empathize and say, "Oh, okay. Let
Mhm.
me not think that that's what she's saying because that may not even be what's going on." But
Right.
I don't know if we would have gotten to this space if we didn't journal. If we
Jasmine,
didn't
all this time
journal.
I've known you, I had no idea that you guys did that. To me, that is like one of the healthiest communication tools that I've ever heard of.
So underrated. It's so
Wow.
underrated. And I mean, even if you have questions at the end, like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm replying back to what you said, but okay, but so why do you think that is? Why do you think you did?
Mm,
Because it then opens up that door to where now I actually want to understand more.
yeah,
And
it
I'm
brings us
going
your
back back.
curiosity.
Yeah, you can even go back and read like, oh, okay, well, she said this 2, 3 pages ago.
Mhm.
Oh, now I get it. Now
Yes.
I understand because it's not met with high emotion, and even when it is met with high emotion, sometimes when you write things, you might like be, "Okay, that was a little ugly. Let me go back and let me write that out." But, sometimes when you're speaking, once it's said, you can't take that back.
You can't. Mhm.
But
Yeah.
when you write, writing really puts you in a
Yes.
place where, girl, watch your mouth.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it's like, "Oh, let me reword that." Because
Yeah.
you're like, "Oh, that sounds crazy. Let me
Mhm.
let me take the pencil, let me erase that a little bit. That was a little crazy." And this is not what I really where I want this to go anyway. And I
Yeah.
really wanna know how he
To hear.
feels,
Yes, that's what I want him to
not
hear.
what I want him to receive. And I
Mm,
may have said something in an argument because he said something, now I didn't met it with sass because 'cause I'm just sassy.
yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
quick with it, and so I'm gonna say something I know it's gonna sting, but what is that gonna do?
Yeah.
And how is that gonna get us over this hump? And so I felt like it was quiet. It allowed me to actually hear God's voice more than my own or his,
Mhm.
because when you sit and you journal, it's very quiet. It's
Yes.
also very peaceful because you feel like I said everything I wanted to say. I
Man.
wasn't interrupted. I wasn't derailed by my spouse's emotions. I wasn't derailed by what he said that offended me. I'm able to actually sit sometimes he would write something and I might not reply right away.
Right, right, right. Give
He
you that
just
pause.
he in that space because he feels relieved because, "Hey, I said it." She might not
Mhm.
have replied yet, but she heard me. She'll
Mhm.
reply.
Yeah, yeah.
It may
And
take her 24 hours to process it,
I
but
like how it gives you the pause needed
absolutely.
to process for one,
Right.
because a lot of times emotions, because emotions is the driving force there. We don't pause. Um but now, so I'm thinking now that now that you're telling me about this method of communication, how did that contribute to the books that you've written, and tell us a little bit about them.
Whoo! Oh my. Well, the first book I wrote, I always say it was a vomit of my emotions
Mhm.
because this is my first book. It was a self-help book. And
Mhm.
the title was How Concrete Changed the Soil. And we
Yeah,
was
yeah.
just talking about gardening and all those things. And I always felt like I was a rose that came up out of concrete. Like I don't know
Mhm.
how I bloomed because it was rough.
Mhm. Mhm.
But then through life, that changed into soil and what that journey was like. And that's
Yeah.
basically what that book is self-awareness,
Mhm.
identifying oneself,
Mhm.
knowing who I am without having to announce who I am. That was a big part
Yeah.
of and I think that's like an inner city thing. Like we gotta be like, boom, we on the scene. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's like those things I wrote about in the first book was like, you don't see Bentley advertising. They don't have to.
You don't have
You
to.
don't see because you know it's luxury. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
once you know who you are, you sit with it. What they
Yes.
say about you don't matter because I'm still a Bentley.
Yep.
You know what I've
Yeah.
been tried and true. I know who I am. I don't have to announce it. And like I said, that self-discovery journey about actually who Jasmine was in
Mhm.
those spaces
Mhm.
uh, allowed me to just gain clarity. And that's what that book was, just like a vomit of everything of how I felt that journey to
Mhm.
those spaces. And then I sat with it and people was like, "Oh, we loved it. You should write a marriage book." And I was like, "Nah." And let me tell you, God was like, "Girl, you're gonna be obedient one way or another.
Well,
Imma
ex
either push you into it or you gonna just do it how I said you should do it." You know what I mean? And
yeah.
so
Yeah.
and then the marriage book came around, and it was one of those things I was talking about before, that it's important that, um, healthy marriages are the loudest voice when it comes to marriages, because I feel like most people now, the loudest voices in the room, everybody has a mic, everybody has a podcast, and
Mhm.
everything that they say on it is like, "What?"
Mhm.
Sometimes I listen to some of the things, if you're on social media, you're gonna run past something that's crazy, and I sit and go, "What?"
Yeah.
Like, what how is that working for you? Like,
Yeah.
how I seen this one thing recently, it was like, there was these guys, and they were talking about how they don't like their wives, and, "Yeah, man, like, she's not my friend, but, the marriage works." How?
How?
I
Yeah.
was like because if my spouse wasn't my best friend, this
Yep.
would not work for me, and
Exactly.
it's like, how far would I get in those seasons?
Yeah.
He
And it
wasn't.
happened. Yeah.
At the
Yeah.
end of the day, he is my best friend. I wrote this is my second book, and this is so funny. This title always makes me chuckle because this is true. And
Mhm.
this is marriage isn't always bubble gum and lollipops.
That's the one I know.
Because, we sit in this space where we think everything is Candyland and yay,
Yeah.
yay, yay. And
Yes.
it's like, no, actually it's not. And
Mhm.
actually you can produce that. It can be that, but it's
Yeah.
gonna take work. It may be that in the beginning because it's just new. I mean, that's
Mhm.
anything new that you have. Like if you get a new purse, oh, I can't wait to wear it.
Yeah.
I can't wait to get an outfit to go with it. And then you wear it a couple times and it's like, oh, she's cute. Let me put her away.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
that's how we do, and you cannot be that way in your marriage. You have to constantly work. And
Yeah.
so for me, it was important to recognize and identify that I needed to put a voice in and
Mhm.
be realistic. I feel like a lot of times when people go to we talked about that early on, like what type of marriage coach I wanted to be. And
Yeah.
I think that's when you really identify, okay, there's no realness brought into these spaces. It's very
Mhm.
surface level. It's very like, "Do this, do that," and it's
Yeah.
no true realism in it. It's like,
Yeah.
"Okay, girl, I got nothing from that. I didn't set an hour. I didn't paid you, and what I'm supposed to do?"
Yeah. Yeah. I'll tell
Because
you this,
yeah,
let me interject this really quickly. When I first started, and again, trying to find my voice as a coach, in that aspect, it was like, yeah, I got the certifications. Yes, we got all of these little, alphabets behind our name, but I will never forget I think she was like my second paying client. And she said, "Yeah, I saw your website. Yeah, I saw all the credentials, but it's after I spoke to you and you told me your story, that was the reason I worked with you. That's it."
um, and
She said,
my
"Great."
first sessions are always that. We have
Yeah,
to make sure that this is gonna work for both of us, because
yes,
if I meet you where you need to be met, I want you to go so that you can get the help. It's not an ego thing. That's one thing you
exactly.
have to let
Exactly.
go
I will refer you in a second.
in a second,
I
because
will
if this is not gonna work